any technology, it takes a long period of time to innovate and become mature, and eventually will play a important role in our daily life. I think this technology, the same thing, is going to happen, but it's not going to happen in a short period of time.
Right.
So
yeah.
It's a significant investment on that. And also, I would like to say that, this will be slightly incorporated into our breeding program. I think some of the application are ongoing at the moment. For that, basically, I just want to just say that, technology is amazing. And we want, working to support, for this type of technology to move forward.
Welcome to the Beef Podcast, brought to you by 𝗦𝗽ecie. I'm your host, 𝗨𝗀𝗍 𝗏𝗀𝗀, and it's my pleasure to bring you the latest trends and issues from the best and brightest minds in the beef industry. Today, we're joined by one of those brightest minds, Dr. Carl Jiang, Associate Professor at University of Florida 𝗨𝗪𝐼FAS, Department of Animal Sciences. Dr. Jiang earned his master's and PhD in reproductive physiology from the University of Connecticut and was a postdoctoral associate at Yale University in the School of Medicine. He worked as Associate Professor and Doyle Chambers Distinguished Professor at Louisiana State University before joining the University of Florida in 2022. We're going to get down to very cellular levels today and learn a lot about stem cells and things of that nature with animal breeding. So I'm excited to do that. Dr. Jiang, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
No, we are excited to have you on. I very admittedly know not much about anything that you have worked on. So I know that I am going to learn a lot today. And to start off with, I talked just a very skim on the top of your background. But if you could give us more about your background, how you got started in the beef industry and in animal science and just your career thus far, that would be wonderful.
I grew up in a rural place in a town called Liuyang City in China. And so I went to college, animal sciences. So since then, I have passion about the field of animal sciences. And then later on, I went to the college and the graduate school at the United States. And then I studied the embryo biotechnology. And then that's how I'm here today. So my research is mainly focused on trying to understand the normal process of the early embryo development. Basically, it's the first few weeks of early pregnancy, primarily focused on the cattle, and trying to understand the molecular causes of their embryonic loss and early pregnancy failure. And more recently, I'm also trying to develop the novel assisted reproductive technologies, that including using their stem cell technology to improve or innovate their assisted reproductive technologies, and also using for the animal breeding. So I'm very excited to maybe talk about those tools that we built recently in my laboratory.
It's a worthy cause, because anything that we can do to have more conceptions and more live calves and not lose calves early on in gestation is very noble work. And so
Jones Hamilton is proud to support this episode and support healthier environments with our pH control product, 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗏. 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗏 controls ammonia, improves air quality, and supports hoof health to create healthier spaces for calves, cows, and the people who care for them. Backed by decades of experience in animal agriculture, Jones Hamilton helps producers leverage the power of pH to support herd health, welfare, and productivity. Learn more at joneshamiltonag.com.
I don't know much about this, but could you just provide us a basic, a benchmark of understanding about stem cells, what they are, and then we can talk more about their role.
So the stem cells is basically a class of cells. They can self-renew and differentiate to any cell type in our body. So basically, there are different types of stem cells, including the embryonic stem cells, and that are derived from the early stage of embryo, we call it blastocyst. And also they have adult stem cells. Primarily, I probably just using one example for example, embryonic stem cells. So as we all know, we all came from one cell, which is created by a sperm fertilized an egg, become a zygote. And then after a couple of days, and we're going to develop into a blastocyst. And that blastocyst can implant and then for a baby, a calf.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, and what we're talking about is the first week of pregnancy. In the cattle, for example, it takes 7 days to reach a blastocyst, and the blastocyst, have a two essential part. One is the inner cell mass that eventually develop into the fetuses.
Mm-hmm.
And second is the cells are surrounded. That's called a trophododerm. That trophododerm is going to develop into placenta. It's basically during the pregnancy, to provide it's like gas tank for a car, right? The placenta.
Right. Yeah.
So basically, what I'm talking about, the embryonic stem cells, is the cells that derive from the inner cell mass of the blastocyst.
Okay.
And they have the capacity to develop into differentiate to any cell types in the body.
Oh, okay.
So basically, it's a very cool technology, and then it's basically first invented in the mice, I think in the 1980s. But right now, there are warehouse of the embryonic stem cells has been established in warehouse species, including the cattle as well. That's what we are focused on.
So that I am understanding, stem cells are derived from the blastocysts in the placental area.
Yeah, you are right. So basically, there are stem cells, there are different types of stem cells. Right now, what I'm talking about is really focus on the embryo-derived stem cells.
Okay,
so there are embryonic stem cells that derive from the inner cell mass component of the blastocyst, and also have the trophododerm or trophoblast stem cells that derive from the trophododerm. And also have the extraembryonic endoderm stem cells that derive from the hypoblast cell, which is, if the inner cell mass first differentiate, you are going to differentiate to the hypoblast cell and the epiblast cell.
Mm-hmm.
Epiblast cell becomes 3 gene layers, it's going to divide into the fetuses. And then the hypoblast cell is going to be eukaryote.
Okay.
That during that critical period, to support their fetus development. So there are a variety of different type of stem cells can be derived from the blastocyst.
So you mentioned that they started research with stem cells in the 80s on mice. And now there's lots of different species that has stem cell research, including cattle. So how are they playing a role? Like, how are these stem cells playing a role in animal breeding in cattle? So
that's a very important question. So basically, because of by definition, the stem cell have the capacity to differentiate any cell type of our body.
Mm-hmm.
And then so these cells are amazing. Basically, we call it a progenitor cell of our different type of lineages. So there are a variety of applications. Just give you one example. So the stem cells can be used as a donor cell for the somatic cell transfer, which we call the cloning.
Mm-hmm.
So compared to the somatic cell, the stem cell have their more capacity for the gene editing. And then also, if using the stem cell as a donor cell, and then they will see different increase of their reprogramming efficiency for the cloning. So that's actually one of the area of the research. And also stem cells, as what I'm working on, is basically using stem cell to generate the gametes, the eggs, and the sperm in vitro, and also generate their stem cell-based embryos that mimic to the blastocyst in vitro. And eventually, so we don't need to do the lateral breeding. We can, using these tools, we are not going to eliminate lateral breeding, but we are maximize the genetic marriage by using these modern technologies, stem cell technologies. So yeah, those are one of their area, I'm very fascinating right now.
I think you made a really good point just now that this is not going to, that this kind of stem cell work is not going to replace natural breeding. Because I feel like, and I think it's important to highlight that, because some people, or not some people, but just sometimes we can hear about new technology and wonder what kind of change that's going to bring to the industry, right? Because change can be, things that you don't understand can be scary. Change can be scary. So I think that's an important point to make, is that research and technology of these kinds are not going to replace natural breeding, but can be used, and based on what you're saying, and that hopefully I'm interpreting it correctly, is that it can be used to improve our already breeding practices and make us better and more efficient and more successful with our herds.
Yeah, I would like to emphasize one point. After decades of research, at the moment, those assisted reproductive technologies, including the artificial insemination, we call it AI, is not artificial intelligence,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And also the in vitro fertilization, or IVF, and embryo transfer, or ET, has been widely used in our breeding programs. So they are significantly improve the reproductive efficiency as well as with the production. So when you look at all these technologies, basically they already been widely used and to improve their production. But however, they also have a limitation on those technology, because they still are relying on their gametes, like a sperm, egg, and also they need to make an embryo and for transfer. So that's how these stem cell technology can come in to play a role. That's what we are doing right now.
Stem cell technology, is that something that's right now is only being used or utilized in labs like your own, or is it being applied in like settings in the beef industry already? So like at somewhere that practices embryo transfer, is it already out in the industry, or is it right now just being studied and refined in labs like your own?
Yeah, definitely. They currently is still mostly in the research, but there are a couple areas stem cell have already incorporated into their platform in the industry. For example, stem cells can be used to derive the cultural meat. You probably heard about that, the cultural meat. You can produce the meat from the stem cells because their capacity to differentiate into the mouse, muscle cells, those. So basically they can produce the cultural meat. And also the stem cells, as I previously mentioned, they can use for their donor cell for the cloning, somatic cell transfer. The cloning is being in the market, as you may know. So they can, and also they can use for the gene editing at the donor cell, because it's different speed up the process. So it's been widely used as well, but definitely in terms of the product, it's only have a limited number of the product on the market at the moment.
I hadn't thought about it. I mean, if I had thought more in depth, I probably would have realized the cultured meat is a stem cell, analog or like byproduct of that work. But cloning, yeah, that's a good. See, I feel silly now that I didn't think about those things before I asked that question. But I remember Dolly, the sheep, from literally decades ago. It seems like that was 20 or 30 years or something like that. But so, yeah, now that I think about it, it has been around a while. What role do you see stem cell research or stem cell applications playing in the future in animal breeding, in the cattle industry specifically?
Okay, before I answer the question directly, I would like to just give you a little bit more information regarding the stem cell-based embryos or stem cell-derived eggs and gamete. I mean the sperm.
Please go ahead.
So before that, so I really need to define what these. So basically, there are two. One is when we talk about the either the lateral breeding, that's different category. I mean, when we talk about the apply the assisted reproductive technologies into the animal breeding, either the AI or the IVF or embryo transfer, we need sperm, we need the oocyte, we need embryo, right? To make an embryo, and then we transfer and make a calf.
Mm-hmm.
And in many cases, for the elite animals, there's not many good quality of their eggs they can produce, for example. And also, for the bull, nowadays, many of the calf is produced from the champagne bull, right?
Mm-hmm.
The semen produced. So, but however, it's limited. So that's how the stem cell coming in play a role. So, for example, if we can produce the gametes using the stem cells, that stem cell created from the elite animal genetics. So we have unlimited source, sperm and oocyte, and we can fertilize and make an embryo. And then on the other side, when I talk about the stem cell-based embryos, so basically I'm talking about at the moment is a structure that mimics to blastocyst. And they have all the cellular composition, location, similar to a lateral blastocyst. And in the mice, actually, when those blastoid or embryos or stem cell-based embryos, they transfer into the uterus, and they have already gone through the half journey of the pregnancy. That's amazing. So they have all the organogenesis. But definitely in the cattle, we are still at very beginning of this type of research. So basically, if we can eventually turn those stem cell-based embryos into a calf,
mm-hmm.
think about it. So that's definitely represent a parallel shift in our animal industry, right?
Right, absolutely.
Basically, those are two different. That's how these two different type of technology, how they the huge potential they are used in the animal breeding or animal industry. And on the other side, definitely we need to recognize we cannot just get this technology, occur one day, right? So before we do that, we probably need to slightly incorporate in this technology into our country animal breeding strategies. So actually, in the industry, I think they have been working on this. So basically, they are using stem cells, as I mentioned earlier, to create the gene editing cell line, and they can use a donor cell and then to make a clone animal, so they can maximize the elite genetics.
Mm-hmm.
That's one example as well. So definitely it's still the fantasy for this technology, in terms of what you talk about the animal breeding industry.
There's a lot of places for it to go, like a lot of potential and opportunity. From a cost, I know that you don't have a number this is how much it costs for a calf, right? But at some point, do you see it not being so cost prohibitive for producers to use? Like if someone if they had a really elite bull and they wanted to guarantee that they got a certain number of offspring from that bull, because maybe the bull was at the end of its life or something like that, is it going to be to a point ever where it would be, affordable is a relative term, but so that it's not so cost prohibitive? Do you see that in the future? Oh yeah,
if this is going to happen, I always use this example to inspire my grad student in the laboratory. So for example, if we have a champagne bull, elite genetics, and then so we can generate stem cells, and from the stem cells we can generate unlimited number of their sperm, and then so basically we can, the stem cell can be vitrified, we can freeze, and then we can reuse, and then we can rederive the gametes, and then we can sell those sperm directly. We don't need to collect the semen from the ball anymore.
Right.
And then, so basically, you only need one cell line.
Okay.
And you can basically have the unlimited genetics of that particular ball.
Unlimited genetics.
Yeah.
That is very appealing.
So I'm not going to like give you the numbers, but this is how, and also in the female side as well. For example, any elite animals, they're aging, they cannot produce any functional oocytes anymore. And then so you can create a stem cell line, and then you can make a unlimited eggs for the fertilization.
Yeah.
Or we can, as I said, I'm that's primarily working in my laboratory. It's basically create the stem cell based embryos. So we can, from the elite genetics, we can create the stem cell based embryos, and we just need continue to sell the embryos. Actually, I think that's probably the future of their embryo industry. So we are not going to sell semen or oocytes anymore. We basically not selling semen anymore. We are going to just sell the embryos. But if we can make stem cell based embryos, so we can have tons of unlimited number of embryos, and we can use for transfer. It's unbelievable,
Yeah. Flushing a cow can be a really frustrating process, because sometimes you get, one embryo from a cow that you flush, and sometimes you might get 16, and you never know. This sounds much more promising than trying to flush your best cow all the time. And so, it sounds like there's a lot of promise in it.
But get there is challenge. It's get to that step. It's like tons of the basic research and investment at the beginning.
Yeah. Are there? Well, yes. The expense of research that's must be astronomical. What other challenges are moving? Do you anticipate moving forward as this becomes more researched and accepted and available? Widespread.
From my standpoint of view, because I'm basically a research scientist, and there are a couple of challenges before this technology, to make this technology mature. So first, basically, because we talk about stem cells, in the livestock species, for example, in cattle, the quality of their stem cells that are used to produce the gametes or stem cell-based embryos is not nearly perfect. So, many of our research today, we still adopt their culture conditions from the mice, from humans, or from other model species, and translate into the cattle. So those culture conditions are not perfect. So basically, there is a significant investment on the basic research to understanding the early embryo development in the cattle itself, and understanding the singleness, how we can make a better embryonic stem cells, for example, or the embryo-derived stem cells. And then the next step is definitely, we still right now is we can make stem cell-based embryos that morphologically or molecularly similar to the IVF blastocyst or lateral blastocyst, in vivo blastocyst.
Right.
But however, we still don't know the developmental potential. My laboratory has working on this. So basically, we need to transfer these stem cell-based embryos into the recipients, and we need to produce a healthy calf, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It's a long way to go.
Yeah.
I just want to give you some information according to the kind of research in the mice, because always in the mice is the model. And any technology, if that cannot succeed, particularly like this type of technology, you cannot succeed in the mice. It definitely is our livestock research is far behind. So in the mice, at the moment, so a stem cell-based embryos, when they transfer into recipients, they have already gone through the half journey of pregnancy. For example, a day 8.5 around that gestation. So basically, they all have their full organogenesis formed. Have a beating heart, all the organogenesis that mimic a natural fetuses. So basically, I think in terms of the livestock, there's a tremendous research and the investment need to devote into the stem cell based embryo research. But the situation right now, because in the field, because this is high risky, high rewarding.
Yeah, high risk, high reward.
So basically, there's a critical need on the investment on this space. I think that's the challenges we are facing at the moment. Definitely, when we get into that stage, we have the technology. For them, we can make the in vitro gametes from the stem cells, or our the stem cell based embryos can make a pregnancy and produce a calf. And then at that moment, we will facing other challenges, including how we can incorporate into our daily practice of the breeding strategies. And what's ethical? I think there's a series of those social ethical issues coming in. I think that's what we'll discuss later. But I think as a scientist, we discover and we innovative the scientific ideas, and then we developing new technologies. So that's what we do right now. And we still focus on at the very beginning.
So what you're saying is we're not going to be able to get a calf next year. There's quite a bit to go.
Definitely.
But it's very promising though. It sounds very promising and something that is going to be a viable option moving forward. And so I think everybody that's listening to this podcast knows that progress, anything worth doing in progress is slow going, but you want to get it right and make sure that it works correctly. So this is a reminder for our audience that if you're enjoying this episode of the Beef Podcast presented by 𝗦𝗽ecie, please remember to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends and family. Dr. Jiang, do you have anything, is there anything I have not asked about that you feel is critical to this discussion? Because I know there's a lot I haven't asked about, but is there anything you'd like to share more before we go into our closing questions?
I guess the one thing, I want to remind, all this technology sounds amazing, unbelievable. And then some people maybe have fear of this type of technology. I just want to remind, the industry, our general public, any technology, it takes a long period of time to innovate and become mature, and eventually will play a important role in our daily life. I think this technology, the same thing, is going to happen, but it's not going to happen in a short period of time.
Right.
So
yeah.
There's a significant investment on that. And also, I would like to say that, this will be slightly incorporated into our breeding program. I think some of the application are ongoing at the moment. So for that, basically, I just want to just say that, technology is amazing, and we want, working to support, for this type of technology to move forward.
Yeah, there's a very good points about that it's slow going, or, it takes time to have innovation. Those are very good points.
It's time for our famous three.
Feed formulation software is stuck in the past. Most tools haven't evolved beyond basic least cost optimization. 𝗽𝗹𝘁𝗀𝗃 changes that. It's an AI-powered platform with nonlinear ingredient modeling for enzymes and additives, cost per gain and maximum profit optimization, and real-time collaboration like Google Docs for nutrition. Every recommendation is grounded in world-class research, built for modern nutritionists who need more than legacy desktop software can deliver. Work seamlessly with your team and optimize the way modern operations demand. Try 𝗽𝗹𝘁𝗃 free today. Feed formulation, finally modernized.
We have reached the point in our podcast where we have our closing questions. We ask the same questions of every guest that comes on, and I did give Dr. Jiang a heads up on these, so he is not going to be surprised by them. But the first one is, what is your favorite beef or cattle related resource? So it could be a book or a website, a person, your favorite. What do you turn to? Your favorite beef or cattle resource?
I as a basic scientist, I always I'm being very interested to explore our leading industries, the website, the resources, for example, like GNAS, like the 𝗟𝗫 transover genetics, it's part of the 𝗟𝗫s right now, and ST genetics, among many others. So I'm being very interested in all those the resources, the website, and then to update what's going on in the field. So that's actually my interest, when you talk about specific websites.
Those are good websites, good resources. Those companies have a lot of information.
By the way, and a beef podcast show as well.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice of you to say that. Thank you. Okay, and what is your favorite non-beef or cattle-related book, or one that you are currently reading?
Well, I currently have 2 young boys, so I would say I spend most of my time, after work, to reading those children literatures. So nothing special at the moment for my own.
What children's books are you reading? Are your children young, like toddler age, or are they?
Oh, they are 1 and 3, and the other is 6.
Yeah. So you're reading young books.
Yeah.
Young books.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, I don't think I've had that answer before. So that's fun for sure. And then the last one is, when you think of someone you admire or look up to, what is a characteristic they possess that has led them to be successful?
Well, I think during my journey, I think there are many of those figures there to guide me and to inspire me. I don't want to name a specific person, because there's a bunch of those who I really respect and that are inspiring my research and my scientific journey. But I would like to say that they all have the common characteristic. So they work hard, and they pioneer some of the technologies, and then they are super nice. And then they, particularly for young people, and they're collaboratively with the colleagues.
Okay.
And also they have a very, very tight connection with the industry. Mm-hmm. Because that's how industry, they know the problems they want to solve. Mm-hmm. We scientists, sometimes we focus on laboratory, focus on the front line of research, but sometimes we are missing the critical problems that the real world facing. I think those pioneers, they that inspire me, and they have all those characteristics that I've been trying to incorporate into my journey.
Yeah, that's a lot of characteristics. That's a lot for people to possess. So thank you for sharing those with us. Sadly, that is all the questions and time we have for today. I know that we just barely scratched the surface of your work with stem cells, and there's so many other things that we didn't even talk about that I know that you work in. So we'll have to have you back on the podcast again to talk about some of those other things. But I've really enjoyed talking with you today, Dr. Jiang, and our conversation has me wanting to dig a little bit more into it so that I can understand more. If listeners have questions for you or want to learn more about our discussion today, where can they do that?
I just want to remind that the stem cell technologies that apply into the damaged species is going to happen, and also the stem cell research is updated daily basis or weekly basis. So please follow up, all those amazing technologies.
Okay. Well, yes, it is science is ever changing. That's a pretty constant thing about it, is it's always changing. So thank you again for being here today and for sharing your time and your expertise and knowledge with us. And to our audience, thank you for tuning in, and we will meet you back here next week on the Beef Podcast presented by 𝗦𝗽ecie.